All right, for today's video review, we are finally getting to take a look at Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Commander Class Armada Universe Optimus Prime. This has been one that I've been really excited about for a while, and yeah, it does not disappoint. This is a pretty good set. Obviously, our Armada is very dear to my heart, being really the Transformers show that I grew up on. It was the one that, was on when I was a kid, when I first started getting into Transformers. I do generally, as an adult, I like a lot of the more G1 designs more. Like that stuff is really, more what I prioritize in my collection. But Armada being like my first exposure to the franchise definitely means that it is a very important series and toy line to me. And it's great to see some of those characters done in new ways, since like a lot of the Armada toys, they were all very fun toys, but they were very brick-like, even compared to like some of the, toy lines that came before them, like Beast Wars or RID. Armada is very much like a gimmick-based kind of brick toy line, so it's really nice to see new versions of those characters done pretty, accurately to the old toys, but just given more joints, pretty much. And yeah, no, looks pretty good in his big truck mode here. Does come with a big blaster here. I mean, there's other accessories like the the smokestacks are little removable, handgun accessories, but they're also kind of part of the alt mode. This whole thing here is both, kind of an accessory and also is the thing that, holds the trailer onto the actual truck. If you want to store the gun, it can just peg on top here, which, usually I wouldn't be a huge fan of. But in the case of Armada Optimus Prime, like the trailer was always just like a big block of like random stuff anyway. Like it does not look like it's got treads in the back, does not look like an actual like earthy trailer. So having the gun up there, I don't think like really changes the aesthetic all that much. Like it pretty much still works. I love that he's got like the big raised Autobot symbols here. Would have been nice if there was white backing it like there was on the original toy, but still looks nice. It rolls really nicely, which is good to see. It's got a good rotation too. In terms of how the trailer actually connects, it's a really loose connection, which, it kind of just like pops on there. And just because it's a loose peg in a hole, like it gets a good amount of like swivel without it actually, without you actually having to like work with the friction of the peg there, which I think works well enough. Now, in terms of the trailer, if you want to just have it sitting on its own, the original trailer for Armada Optimus Prime just like had this section extend out way forward, so it didn't really need anything else, but this one would just kind of fall over like that. But it has these bits here that you flip out from the back of these like canisters on the side here to make little kickstands basically for the trailer, so you can have it sit without Optimus Prime attached to it. And yeah, in terms of his individual truck mode, it's okay. I think this is maybe one of the weaker parts of the figure as a whole, especially compared to the original, is that he's a bit long and a bit like short. Like I think the width is fine. It's just that he's too, he's too like extended out the back, like because the legs no longer compress for transformation. So these are like the full length of his robot mode legs pretty much. So it does make it look a little bit long. Obviously the hands are still kind of just peeking out there, which, isn't great, but it's better than the original that literally just had the hands sticking outside of the back, so it works well enough. But like I said, I think it looks pretty good when actually attached to the trailer. Like the proportions of the truck really don't bother me when it's all combined, just because you can't really like see how long it is. I think that looks great. It's just looking at the truck by itself, it's like, yeah, it's a little long and a little flat, but otherwise I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just to start off with a standard one here, we got a lot of stuff to get through. Here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see what he looks like with an average size deluxe there. Here he is with Legacy Evolution Hotshot. It's just for another Armada comparison. I think they look pretty good together. And then likewise, here he is with Legacy Evolution Megatron, the leader class one. Again, I think they look pretty good together. They're really, I mean, I don't really like Hotshot as a figure, but these two I feel like really nail the aesthetic of both like being very kind of show and toy accurate to the original set. Because again, like I said, a lot of the toys in Armada, though they were brick-like, in terms of what the show models looked like, they were fairly accurate in terms of like just, having all the parts show up in the right places. So when updating them, it's really kind of like a nice update to both the toys and the cartoon models, which is nice. But yeah, that's what they look like together. What else do we want to do here? What's the order? Okay. For another Optimus Prime comparison, here he is with Earthrise Optimus Prime with his trailer, obviously with the 3D printed upgrade stuff on it, but still, that's what they look like together. And then, just since we're doing other primes with trailers, here he is with G2 Universe Optimus Prime. Maybe not a necessary comparison, but figured, what the heck, we're getting a bunch of them out there. That's what they look like together. Let's see. Here he is with Sparkplug that came with the original Armada Optimus Prime, which again, unfortunately, all the spots that used to be Minicon pegs on the trailer on the original toy are now replaced with 5mm ports. So if they ever do new Minicons, they'll have to have the pegs be on the Minicons, and unfortunately, that means that there is no way to really attach Sparkplug to this trailer. Like, you can sit them on top, sure, but it would have been nice to see, because I feel like, especially on a big figure like this, like the Minicon ports would not have been super obtrusive just having pegs stick out the side. So I would have liked to see a couple just so you could put Sparkplug somewhere, but I get it. Here he is with the deluxe, kind of referred to as Bendy Prime from the original Armada toy line. I mean, this is the Cybertron version of it, but it's mostly the same mold as the deluxe Armada versions, missing the smokestacks there. And then, of course, last but not least, here he is with the original Armada Optimus Prime. Going to be tough to fit both of them on here, just so you can see how they look together. This figure has seen much better days. It's missing an arm, it's missing its smokestacks, it's missing half of the stuff that makes up the platforms in the trailer. The trailer is falling apart and yellowing, so it's nice to get a new update of this figure. But just so you can see what they kind of look like together, let's take a look at the truck modes individually here, so we can kind of compare. You can see they're pretty much the same length when ignoring the feet there, but this one is obviously a lot shorter and a little bit less wide. So it's like, that's what I mean with like it's just proportionally the length is just a bit too much. But otherwise, I feel like it's a fairly accurate recreation here. In terms of like, the red is a bit different, but I like that he still has the like the silver stripes on the front there. And honestly, like, it definitely doesn't work exactly the same, but a lot of the transformation is pretty similar to how the original one worked, which, again, is nice because like the not so much distance between the show model and the toy, so it's easier to do something like that when making a new recreation of it. So, but yeah, no, I think they look pretty good together. I sort of wish that the floodlights here on the top of the roof were picked out. What else do I wish? I mean, the wheels are a little bit thinner, but I think that actually looks better than the original figure, so I'm not really bothered by that. But yeah, no, pretty good recreation. Really, it's just the proportions that kind of mess with me a little bit. And then looking at the trailers here, I'd say the trailer is definitely the thing that has the biggest departure. I'd say the original, like the inner figure is pretty similar to the original inner figure. The trailer, obviously, because it doesn't do the whole like gimmick where it like opens by itself and then goes into either base mode or the leg mode, it works completely differently. So it kind of looks similar in both trailer mode and the legs mode, not really in base mode, but everything kind of comes from different places, just because like obviously they had to update that, because if they wanted to give this knees in the combined mode, then there's no way it could work even remotely like the original one did with that flip over gimmick, since basically the legs were just like hollow panels that were like, three sides filled in. So yeah, definitely a bit different here. It's a little strange to me that they decided to, cut this in a way so that these pieces stick up, because I'm pretty sure these are supposed to stick out to the side for trailer mode, because they don't really look quite right when they're up like this. And, actually plugging a Minicon on you want it off to the side. So I sort of wish these went out to the side, but they're blocked by this panel. And really the only difference they would have had to do is just like make the cut on this panel a little bit deeper so that these could fold out to the side. That would have been nice, but whatever. But otherwise, it's fairly good. These like actually become like the inside of the combined mode legs rather than just, well, I guess these two too, technically, they just get there in a very different way. So yeah, it's a fairly, I'd say, accurate, recreation in this mode. The base mode, I think, is really where it differs the most, but it all works pretty much. It definitely gets the shapes there pretty accurately. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this mode. I guess for now we'll just take the base and put it off to the side and just look at the individual robot mode and transform that. And then we'll show it off with the base mode. But yeah, like I said, this is pretty similar. There's definitely more steps and it works slightly differently, but it's pretty similar to how the original Prime worked, honestly. First thing you want to do is actually take this panel up at the front, and it actually just slides down like that, just so, you know, the cab can look a little bit bigger in truck mode. It just extends out the back there. So yeah, you just want to do that. Then you want to take these panels in the front with the headlights on them and actually fold them out to the side. They're just on a little double hinge here. And you need to do that to unlock the grill section so that you can, very similarly to the original toy, you take this whole section, not at the grill itself, but actually at this red piece, and fold that down like that, and then unpeg it from this section, and then fold it down, and then these two little tabs will go into this, this port right here. You just fold it up like that and click it into place. And then in terms of the legs here, and like I said, they no longer extend like they used to. Now, to get the wheels kind of, you know, repositioned further down the leg, this piece is actually on a rotation joint. So you just untab it from this section here and then rotate it around so it'll click in place like that. Sits kind of at an angle here just to sit further down off of the hip pieces, and that's what really, you know, changes the look of the legs there. And then after you're doing that, you can take these side panels and just untab them. These will just end up being hip skirts, and then just fold it up a little bit so you can take this back panel and just fold it out like that. That will be the sort of back plate there. Then we can untab the legs, take these panels on the shins, fold them up like that, fold down the toe, and then fold these back down. There we pretty much have the legs all done. And then in terms of the arms, if you've got any version, either the deluxe or the you know, the original big Optimus Prime from Armada, this is pretty much works exactly the same. You just untab the arms and then they just shift down here on these joints just like that. And then we just readjust the elbows and the hands there. And there we have Armada Universe Optimus Prime in his robot mode. And yeah, looking pretty good here. I think they really managed to get a good sort of balance of the like show aesthetic and the toy aesthetic. Again, like I said, not really that big of a departure from the original design, but yeah, no, this update looks really, really nice and also very accurate to the original. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint here, so it can rotate around and gets a little wiggle back and forth. The shoulders are a little bit limited. He does have those shoulders that swivel at the shoulder and then actually rotate up at the base rather than the other way around, which means, like, you know, for some movements that doesn't really matter, but if you want him to, like, you know, point his arm out to the side, when he rotates his arm up, he can't rotate his arm out to the side without doing it like that, which looks a little awkward, especially with how high his shoulder joints are. So not the best, but, you know, considering all the things this guy does, it's not the end of the world. It's just really like, you know, just pointing his arm forward and to the side, he can't really do, which, you know, I wish he could, but it's not the end of the world. So yeah, his shoulders can rotate out like that and then rotate out to the side. This also can kind of rotate up and down. It doesn't really lock in place, but I don't necessarily mind that as like a secondary, you know, outward movement for the shoulder. He's got a bicep swivel, pretty deep elbow bend just because of the double joints there, a wrist swivel, no waist cut, unfortunately, just again because of how this works for, you know, combination mode, how his legs have to like split down the middle. There's just no way that they could have worked a waist joint in there. Again, would have been nice to see, but I don't really see how they could have done it, so I don't really blame them for that. Hips can ratchet forward and back if you just move the back plate out of the way, and then out to the side just on a friction joint, which is maybe a slightly bit looser than I'd like it to be, but at least it kind of holds its place there. It's got a thigh swivel. It's got a very satisfying knee ratchet. It only gets 90 degrees in both directions, but I love the sound of that joint. It's just like, that's what you want a ratchet to sound like. That just feels great. And then the feet here, they can tilt forward a little bit just by like unpegging the hand from the inside there. So they can tilt forward about that much. Additionally, if you wanted to tilt forward just at the toe, he can get one click forward of toe movement as well. Can't really move back just because of how the hand kind of fits into the back of the leg there, but does have a dedicated ankle tilt there. So yeah, decent articulation, really. Obviously, you know, you'd want a waist cut, you'd want the shoulders to be slightly differently, but everything else works pretty much as you'd want it to. Now, in terms of his like weaponry or whatever, I mean, he does have the little, smokestack pistols. They don't really go in his hands all that well if you want him to hold it. Like, they go in all right, but it's not a very good connection just because of how, like short the peg is. You kind of have to like rotate his hand a little bit. So he's not holding it perfectly straight. So I tend to prefer to just keep those on his wrists, but you do have that option. And then obviously, if we bring in the trailer here, we can take the big gun off and have him hold that. And that looks fairly good, I think. Obviously, it's unfortunate. It's like, okay, this is another one of those ones where it's just like, oh, the storage for the gun in every mode is reliant on the trailer. Doesn't really have anywhere to go in alt mode, like the regular alt mode, unless you just like peg it in like asymmetrically to one of these. And again, that's how you'd have to store it in robot mode too, which is not great. So whatever, but at least you've got the trailer as a storage option for that. But yeah, in terms of comparisons with his individual robot mode here, just for the standard one, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, so you can see what he looks like with an average size deluxe there. Here he is again with Earthrise and whatever Kingdom, no, Legacy, yeah, Earthrise and Legacy Optimus Prime, both G1 and G2 respectively. So you can see he's about the same height as they are, maybe a little bit shorter at the head, but I think that still looks pretty good. Here he is again with Legacy Evolution. Yeah, he's in Evolution. I forget where which things are Legacy and which things are Legacy Evolution. With Hotshot there, I think they look pretty good together. I mean, obviously, would look better if this was a better looking figure, but he looks good with this pairing. And then likewise, here he is with Legacy Evolution Megatron, who I actually just recently got like 3D printed the Sam's Forge, yeah, I think that's what it's called, the upgrade kit that gives him shoulders that move forward and back. So that's why his shoulders sit a little bit more out to the side than the base figure and a little bit further up too. But still, I think that they look great together. Obviously, Megatron's a little bit taller as he should be, but yeah, no, I think that's a really nice display there. And then who else? All right, here he is with Sparkplug, just so you can see what he looks like with the original Minicon there. I hope we get a new version of Sparkplug eventually somehow, because out of all the Armada Minicons, I feel like Sparkplug is one of the weaker ones, just because of like how he like leans forward because of his like loose feet. So it'd be nice to get a new version of Sparkplug, one that could actually integrate with this figure, but that's what he looks like with the original there. For some more Minicons, let me just bring on, we got the Skyboom shield here and the Requiem blaster, see how he looks holding these, because this is nice to see an actually bigger Armada figure. Still, it's a little bit unwieldy. He can't really bend his elbow all that much, but I think that looks decent with the Requiem blaster there. And then with the Skyboom shield, obviously this is not the first version of it. This is the second one. He can really only hold it forward. And these sets of figures have their own problems, but and that looks okay, but he can't really hold it out to the side just because the little like handle is not long enough to get around all of his like arm stuff. So that's what he looks like with some Minicon things there. And then here he is again with Bendy Prime, so you can see what he looks like with the deluxe version of the Armada / Cybertron Optimus Prime there. And then last but not least, here he is again with my very beaten up original Armada Optimus Prime. Yeah, he's missing an arm, but yeah, you can see he's not much smaller, honestly. Like, I think that they look pretty good together. It matches like a lot of the same aesthetics of the original figure, just cleans it up a little bit, gives it more articulation, makes the proportions a little bit nicer. It doesn't have to have like the silly kind of like, messed up mouth plate because of like the talking gimmick that the original had. But yeah, no, I think that they look really nice together and definitely feels like a very nice update. And then while the original one only had this like sculpted in sort of matrix of leadership in the chest, this one, why you take this red piece with it when you bring that down is because if you open up the grill itself, he actually does have a little removable matrix in here. Just unpegs. It's just a piece of clear plastic painted gold, which looks really nice. And it's kind of funny is like, I thought that it actually had a red gem in it because when it's plugged in, because it's translucent plastic, it has like a bit of a red glow, which, it would have been nice if maybe like they made this like, well, I don't know. It would have been weird for them to have made that like blue plastic because it would have had to be painted since this whole thing is red painted silver. So it doesn't really bother me, but yeah. it's nice that he's got a little removable matrix in there, like the original, except the original obviously wasn't removable. But yeah, they look pretty good together. So yeah, no, pretty nice in the individual robot mode. I'd say like the two robot modes for this guy is where this set really shines. Like I like the big, big truck mode with the trailer, but the individual truck mode and then like the base mode are not as good, I would say, as the original. Still pretty good, but I think that those are kind of like the weaker parts of the set here. But yeah, speaking of the trailer, now we can kind of get on to the base mode for the trailer, which is definitely, I would say, by and large, the biggest departure from the original set. Like the regular trailer and the combined mode look more or less how it should. The trailer really is quite different in terms of the base mode. But first, we want to just take off the gun here. And then we want to split these sections a little bit here, just enough so that we can take this section here that untabs, instead of having all the stuff folded up on the inside, it's just this piece, which is, it looks like it's folded up way more than it is, but this only is like 3 different parts. It's literally just like this, and then it looks like it should like open up out to the side and you can take these guns out, but no, this is all just one big chunk, unfortunately, and can't really be used as like a handheld gun or anything like that. So I don't really like this piece all that much, but it serves its purpose. So we just put that off to the side. Then we want to take these pieces up here and just fold them up like that. And then what you want to do is take these entire chunks, and they'll actually double hinge onto the inside of the leg. And then this tab here, which kind of, tabbed into the outside there, will now slot into this section right here, just like that. And if you wanted to, you could fold these up and it would still fit like that. But we want to leave these out for how it is for combined mode. So you just want to leave them out like that for now and just sandwich these into place. This is also how it's packaged if you want like a slightly cleaner trailer. It's unfortunate that there isn't some way to like actually just attach this to the truck mode. Just if you wanted a cleaner trailer that's, granted less accurate to the original design, but doesn't have like the huge things out to the side. You can't really do that, but whatever. So yeah, you just want to do that. Then you want to take this panel with the Autobot logo on it and just untab it like that and bring it out to the side. And that allows you to take these panels, which were kind of tabbed in underneath that, and then fold them out, and they'll actually tab into the side there just like that. Then we take this whole section here, and it just kind of like unpegs here. I guess first what you want to do is take this section at the bottom, untab it. It's just tabbed into these gold sections down here. And then for this mode, I think you leave it like this, and then you can just take this section and fold that down. And then you take, like I said, you just unfold these so that this panel gets free, and then you can rotate that up like that, and then take this little piece and rotate that up. Take these little pieces that were sticking up off the top and rotate them down as kind of like little kickstands. Take this section here, which is going to be the waist piece, and take it, and then I guess maybe it's easier to do this first, but you want to rotate it down on this joint just enough that you have the clearance to rotate it around. And then when you bring this up, there's 2 tabs on that panel right there that will go into these 2 slots on that panel. So I'm going to line that up and tab it into place. And then you take the legs here and rotate them out to the side like that and kind of fold down these panels to the side. And then we want to take these sections, and they actually just fold into these gold cavities here and set like that, kind of replicating the look of those like original guns that stuck up on the original's base mode, but now obviously they're on the side. And then we just want to take, I don't know if you're supposed to, but you can fold this panel up. Oh yeah, it's got a little sculpted radar addition there. So yeah, I guess, or viewfinder or whatever it's supposed to be. So you can do that. And then actually we want it around like this. So you can take this piece. It was like this for truck mode. Now you want to fold it up just at this peg right here like that, and then that will peg into this section. And then you're supposed to take the gun here and just peg it on to one side of the little platform there, and there you have the base mode. And yeah, I'd say this is probably the weakest part of the set, and definitely the part of the set that takes the most liberties with the original's design, which the original design was not really anything to write home about either, excuse me, but definitely it's missing some of the fun of that, like the big sort of like multi-layered panels that the original had. This doesn't really like this. I think is kind of a poor stand-in for that. I don't mind that it no longer has like the legs really obviously like folded out to the side, but yeah, it's okay. It's like one of those things where it's like you put them next to it and it's just like, okay, what actually happens at this base? I mean, I guess you can put mini cons around it, right? But like, to what end? Like, what are they doing? You know, there's not play features like the original. And speaking of the original, in terms of comparisons with the base mode, let's see how well these are both going to fit on camera here. Mine, again, is missing some parts, so it's not really the full look here, but, oh gosh. This is the original. Now, you know, granted, like I said, mine is missing some of the panels there, so you're not really getting, like, the full tiered effect on that either. It kind of set up like this, and there was another one in the middle, but that's just how mine is. So it has, like, the little, you know, view thing in the middle, which this red piece is kind of a stand-in for, sorta. And it has this little gun, which, again, you know, this is what these are kind of sculpted to look like, but obviously they don't like stick out as little turrets anymore. So generally it just felt like there was more things to actually do here. Like you could plug a minicon into here. I think it would flip up with that gun. Is that how it works? Can't totally remember. Let me just take whatever your name is. Yeah, there we go. So we have another little turret here. Again, you know, wasn't really expecting like all the play features. It would have been nice if there was maybe one or two like little fold out things just to kind of like replicate the fun of the original. Because again, there's really not anything for minicons to actually do on this, which, you know, I understand because they're not selling minicons in this line. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, the weakest part of this set. But, you know, that's what the trailer looks like with the original there, so we can get that off to the side finally. But yeah, you know, it's okay, but I think it's a worthy sacrifice for all the other things that this set does, because again, the trailer really did have to work totally differently to accommodate like actually having posable legs in the big combine mode. And if we were going to sacrifice like one feature from the original set, the base mode is the thing to sacrifice, right? Like it was the worst part of the original set too. This is just worse than that part as well. So it's like, you know, that's how it is. I'm okay with it. But yeah, that is what the base mode looks like there. In terms of actually getting him to the full-on combine mode, we'll start off with just the base prime here. A lot of it, you just start going back to truck mode, honestly. You just want to rotate his hands back in. Now, instead of folding them up like this, how they were, you actually want to double joint them up like that. So they sit like that for now. Then what do we want to do? We want to shift the shoulders back up into place and then actually just rotate these out to the side just to get them out of the way for some other stuff. And then we'll fold them back later. And then you want to take the panel that the grill is on and don't fold it up like it was before. Just fold it out like that. And what else? All right. We want to take the legs here and don't like get them fully back in, but you just want to plug in the like, you know, these bits for the side panel again. And then you can take this entire section, it splits down the middle and it actually rotates out like this first. And then you can rotate it down to the side like that. And then once you've done that, then, you know, this is why we folded these down like that before, is because, you know, you needed space for these joints to move. But now that you've done that, now you can rotate these up and the arms there will peg into the back of these gray sections, kind of locking them in place there, just like that. And then we can take these panels on the packaging art. It actually shows these still out, but you do actually want to shift these back in for combine mode. Just like that. Again, they're just on little double hinges there. And then for the arms themselves, basically what you want to do is you want to open up this panel like this. You want to fold the foot back in how it was for truck mode, just so you have the clearance to take this whole section and rotate it around like that. And then you can plug this panel back in. But then you actually want to take the foot and fold it the other way to fill in that gap in the arm, which is a really clever solution there. And then we can just bring down the arm like it's supposed to be. So like I said, just fold that up, fold the foot down, rotate it around, fold the foot the other way. Oop, getting stuck on something there. There we go. And then fold that back in. And then we can take the big combine mode head and it'll just flip out here. It can be kind of tricky to get a finger on sometimes, but you just want to click it up into place so it kind of tabs into the sides of these gray sections. And then we can fold out the horns just like that. And there we have the upper part of the combine mode. Now, if we take the trailer here, again, we've already done a lot of it. We just kind of bring the legs down the rest of the way. Now you fold these pieces down as heels, and then the actual toes will fold out of those side chunks from the trailer mode, and then we can get it standing up here. We're going to adjust at some point, but I think we're good for now. We can just take the guns off for now, just to, you know, make this a little bit easier. Fold that piece down, fold these back up, untab the waist piece here, then you want to take this whole section with the treads, and it actually rotates around like that, has kind of a nice satisfying click as well. And then you take this entire section with the waist piece and that section, and it actually rotates around kind of at the waist here like that. And then we can bring the the plates down to just sit in front of the legs, and these kind of just fold out to the side. Leave this piece folded up, and then this piece here, you want to actually unfold this red panel up like that. And then we can take the, we'll attach the gun later, but this actually attaches, pretty much you attach it how it was for base mode, but then extend it down like this and then fold it up like this. And then these two tabs on that will actually go into these ports right here. So that just kind of sits off the back of him like that. And then we'll definitely need to adjust the camera here. Getting a lot taller here. This is going to be kind of a challenge to get things kind of on frame. I think we're going to have to cut off his feet there a little bit. And then it's actually a kind of a multi-tier process for getting this guy attached here. First, you want to take the grill section, which is just kind of sticking out of the back like this, and this will actually slide into this cavity on the tread section just like that. You want to get that in, and then you can take this top panel and it will fold down and peg into these two tabs kind of on either side of his head there to secure that into place. And then you can fold the whole section down, and it should happen on its own, but if you're having trouble, just press in these levers here, which kind of, pull in these little sections, which is how you detach it. But you just want to pull those down so you can get this kind of locked into place, and then take this little red panel, and if everything's lined up right, it should be able to fold up like that. And there we have Armada Universe Optimus Prime in his super mode, looking really, really cool. This is, I think, the biggest glow up from the original figure. Obviously, the original figure was very gimmick based, like having the trailer actually like fold down to the side like that, so the legs were like very hollow and empty and had no articulation at all, whereas this one actually gets to have like movable legs, which is again why I think that it's a worthy sacrifice to have like the base mode for the trailer be not as good on this one as it was on the original figure. But yeah, no, I think he looks really, really cool. I do find that he does tend to lean back a little bit, like there's just enough give in the ratchets. So what I tend to do to alleviate that is I take one of the ratchets and just put it a click forward. And again, there's enough give in either direction on the ratchets that his legs still kind of seem like they're actually, like in line with each other, but it does make him stand up a lot more straight. Now, obviously we can give him his gun here, and he looks fairly good holding that. And if you want to store it, just rotate it around to the back here, and there's a port on the back, so you can just plug it in like that, and that's fairly decent storage there. Now, in terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so it can rotate around like that. Gets a fairly decent wiggle back and forth as well. The shoulders are on ratchets here that rotate out to the side. With those using, I guess, where's hips? Yeah, his forward-facing hip motions for the sideways there. What I do find tends to happen is when you want to rotate his arms, you really have to grab it from the shoulder chunk, because otherwise what tends to happen is that because it's using just like the friction joint for the sideways hip joint from the smaller robot mode, and it just moves this out of place. So if you want to move the arms around, like that's really the joint you want to grab it by. He's got a bicep swivel, which was once a thigh swivel. Again, still 90 degrees of bend at the elbow from, with the forward-facing joint on the knees there. The wrists can rotate, and they also have a joint to like pull the fingers out like that. It's unfortunate. When I first saw the design of this guy, I thought he was going to have hands like Jetfire did, with like the collapsing port there. But no, it's just a joint for the hands there, and they look okay open. I honestly don't really mind how the hands are. It would have been nice if they had that like collapsing part, but it's really not, strictly speaking, necessary. Like I think it looks fine as is. He does have a waist swivel. It is below all of this stuff, so you kind of have to like move these panels out of the way to activate it. And so it's like you can only move it so far before these no longer like really work. Thankfully, because this piece has a swivel, when you bring it back down, you can kind of like swivel it in line. So it sits a little bit off to the side, but it looks better than like that kind of panel would normally, where it would just have to be like sitting up like that. So I think that works well enough. It's not like a hugely dynamic range before it starts looking weird, but it works fine. And then in terms of the hip movement, you can ratchet forward on really nice ratchets. Ratchet back, although obviously it'll bump into the backpack stuff at some point. Can It's got just like a normal friction swivel out to the side, which again probably should have been a ratchet. It's like a little bit loose when you really get them moving, but it mostly holds its position, so that's fine. Another thing that's kind of annoying is like if you have these like, you know, down to the side like you would, it does tend to like lock the joint at some point where this tab goes into like the joint itself. So if you have them like fully down to the side, then they start to lock up. So you want to just like leave those out a little bit so you can actually get the legs moving out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee. Again, a really nice feeling ratchet joint there. I really like the way that feels. And then the ankles pretty much just tilt out to the side. There's really, I mean, I guess you can kind of get a little bit of forward facing toe movement, but it doesn't really have enough friction to actually hold his weight. So, and you can bring the heel down. So it's like, there's some things you probably can do, but for the most part, it's just like a sideways ankle tilt, which is fine. Then I guess if you want, you can also bring these guns forward on his shins to give him extra weapons as well. There's really no way for him to actually like wield this whole chunk as a weapon that I've found, which is kind of unfortunate because like it's just like such a weird looking part, which looks like it's folded up from several other panels, but this entire thing is just like an immovable chunk. And it doesn't really look good in base mode. It serves its purpose in alt mode and just in terms of giving him a trailer hitch, but it's just a very weird part. This definitely feels like it was originally designed to be more parts, and then just for budgetary reasons, it got compressed to be just like one chunk at the end of the day. So, I don't really like this part, but whatever. It's fairly ignorable, all things considered. It could be a little bit more clean on the combined mode, but it's fine. The original one had like a huge skirt down to the ground, so can't really blame it too much there. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, for the standard one, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, obviously much taller than him now. Here he is again with G1 and G2 Optimus Prime there, just so you can see how much taller he's really gotten. Here he is again with Hotshot and Megatron for those newer Armada comparisons. I think they all look pretty good together. Who else? For a standard size commander class comparison, here he is with our kind of, golden boy here with Jetfire, who doesn't quite fit on there. And obviously he's quite a bit shorter than Jetfire, but he also does a lot more in terms of like transformation, having multiple modes. So I think he's a fairly decently priced package here in terms of getting your commander class budget there. Here he is again with Sparkplug, which again we couldn't just put a port on his shoulder. I mean, I guess I could just like 3D print a peg to put in there, but it would have been so nice to be able to just like have Sparkplug be able to plug into his shoulder like the original, because I feel like that's part of the combined mode look. But you can kind of, if you just have his arm straight, you can just kind of balance him there, but it doesn't really work. And then of course, last but not least, here he is with the original Armada Optimus Prime in his combined mode, just so you can see, like, he's obviously quite a bit shorter, but, it really, honestly, not as much of a mass difference as I was expecting, just because of, like, how toys have gotten smaller throughout the years. Like, this is, he was essentially a commander class of the time, and obviously he's a bit smaller, but, like, you get kind of more articulation with him. Like, I think this is a pretty decent update, and it definitely feels like you're getting, a good bang for your buck here. But this is what I'm saying, like, here, look at the shins. These no longer become these little turrets that became his, shin detailing, but it still has that detail there. The, like, missile racks behind his head here, which you can't really see, are, no longer anywhere near close to the part that made the missile racks on his figure. Like, this was like the platform that sits up on, in those top panels on his base mode, whereas this is like sits underneath. So it's like, it's all very different, but it's like gotten the right things in the right places, despite the fact that the trailer works completely differently. But yeah, no, I think that I really like this comparison. I think that they look pretty good together. And that's pretty much all there is to him. He's a really, really fun figure, a really fun set. Again, I'd say if there was one weak link in the sort of like modes here, it's definitely the base mode for the trailer. But everything else I think works pretty well. Like, yeah, the individual truck mode is like not perfect, but it's fairly good. I love the truck mode with the trailer. I love the individual robot mode for, you know, Optimus Prime. I love the combined robot mode. It's really just the base and that individual truck, which are, you know, maybe not quite as good as the original, but otherwise I think he's pretty much an improvement. Obviously, you know, he doesn't do all the gimmicks and stuff from the original. He doesn't do the really neat feature where the whole thing like folds up, which I only learned about that recently. I had that toy as a kid and I did not know that it did that, and that's a real bummer because I would have loved to actually experience that happening when, you know, all the mechanisms were new, because you know, God knows my current one certainly could not do that anymore. But I didn't know that the trailer actually like folded itself up into the legs, because I never like messed around with like the you know, like the battery features of stuff as a kid. I always usually just like took the batteries out. But yeah, so either way, that's neither here nor there for this figure. Obviously he doesn't do that, but it's not what he's supposed to do, so it's fine. But yeah, no, really, really cool set, and definitely would recommend picking one up. But yeah, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Legacy Evolution Commander Class Armada Universe Optimus Prime.